The story of David and Goliath is one of the most famous stories in the Bible. It is a story about courage, faith, and trusting God even when facing impossible situations. This story is found in 1 Samuel, chapter 17. It teaches people that victory does not always come from physical strength, weapons, or size, but from faith in God and confidence in His power. At that time, the nation of Israel was often at war with the Philistines. The Philistines were strong enemies who wanted to conquer Israel and control their land. The armies of Israel and the Philistines gathered for battle in a place called the Valley of Elah. The Philistine army stood on one hill, and the Israelite army stood on another hill, with a valley between them. Among the Philistines was a giant warrior named Goliath. Goliath came from the city of Gath and was known for his great size and strength. The Bible describes him as being very tall and heavily armed. He wore a bronze helmet on his head and a coat of armor that weighed many pounds. He also carried a spear and a sword. Every day, Goliath came out before the armies and shouted insults at the Israelites. The Bible says, "Choose a man for yourselves and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us." 1 Samuel 17, 8-9 For 40 days, Goliath came forward morning and evening to challenge Israel. King Saul and all the soldiers were terrified. No one wanted to fight him because he seemed unbeatable. The Israelites believed they would surely die if they faced such a powerful warrior. At the same time, there was a young shepherd named David. David was the youngest son of a man named Jesse from Bethlehem. While his older brothers were soldiers in King Saul's army, David stayed at home taking care of his father's sheep. David loved God deeply and spent much time alone in the fields worshiping and praying. During those lonely days as a shepherd, he learned to trust God completely. One day, Jesse sent David to the battlefield to bring food to his older brothers and to see how they were doing. David obeyed his father and traveled to the camp of Israel. When he arrived, he heard Goliath shouting his usual challenge to the Israelites. The soldiers were afraid and ran away when they saw the giant. David was surprised that no one was willing to fight. He asked the men around him, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?" 1 Samuel 17:26 David could not understand why the Israelites were so afraid. He believed that God was greater than any enemy, even a giant like Goliath. Some soldiers heard David speaking boldly and reported his words to King Saul. Saul sent for David. When David stood before King Saul, he said courageously, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." 1 Samuel 17:32 King Saul doubted David because he was only a young shepherd boy. Goliath, on the other hand, had been a warrior since his youth. Saul thought David was too inexperienced and weak to survive the battle. But David explained that while protecting his father's sheep, he had fought both lions and bears. Whenever a wild animal attacked the flock, David chased it and rescued the sheep. He believed that the same God who protected him before would also protect him against Goliath. David declared, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." 1 Samuel 17:37. Saul finally agreed and told David to go, praying that the Lord would be with him. Saul offered David his own armor, helmet, and sword. David tried to wear them, but they were too heavy and uncomfortable because he was not used to them. So David removed the armor and chose instead to fight with the simple tools he knew well. He took his shepherd's staff, selected 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream, and placed them in his shepherd's bag. In his hand, he carried his sling. As David walked toward Goliath, the giant looked at him with contempt. Goliath expected a strong soldier, but instead he saw only a young boy carrying a staff and sling. The Bible says, "And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth." 1 Samuel 17:42 Goliath mocked David and cursed him. He shouted angrily, "Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks?" 1 Samuel 17:43 Then Goliath threatened to kill David and feed his body to the birds and wild animals. But David answered with great faith and confidence, "You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." 1 Samuel 17:45, David continued by saying that the whole world would know that there is a God in Israel and that victory belongs to the Lord, not to human weapons or strength. As Goliath moved closer to attack, David quickly ran toward the battle line. He reached into his bag, took out a stone, placed it in his sling, and swung it with all his strength. The stone flew through the air and struck Goliath directly in the forehead. The Bible says, "So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him." 1 Samuel 17:50, the giant fell face down on the ground. David then took Goliath's own sword and used it to finish the battle. When the Philistine army saw that their champion was dead, they became terrified and ran away. The Israelites chased them and won a great victory. After the battle, David became famous throughout Israel. People admired his courage and faith in God. King Saul brought David into his service, and eventually David would become the future king of Israel. The story of David and Goliath contains many important lessons for people today. First, it teaches that faith in God is more powerful than fear. Everyone faces giants in life. These giants may not be physical warriors, but they can be problems such as sickness, poverty, failure, fear, or discouragement. Sometimes these problems appear too large to overcome. Like the Israelites, people may feel weak and helpless. However, David's example teaches believers to trust God even in difficult situations. David did not focus on Goliath's size. Instead, he focused on God's greatness. While others saw an impossible enemy, David saw an opportunity for God to show his power. Second, the story teaches that God often uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. David was not a trained soldier or a powerful leader. He was simply a shepherd boy who trusted God. Yet God used him to save Israel. This reminds people that God values faith, obedience, and courage more than outward appearance or human strength. The Bible later says, "Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." 1 Samuel 16:7. The story teaches preparation and faithfulness. Before David fought Goliath publicly, he had already learned responsibility while caring for sheep in private. His earlier experiences with lions and bears prepared him for a greater challenge later. In the same way, small experiences and struggles in life can prepare people for bigger responsibilities in the future. Another important lesson is that courage does not mean the absence of fear. David probably understood the danger before him, but he chose to act in faith instead of allowing fear to control him. True courage comes from trusting God despite uncertainty. The story also shows the importance of using the gifts and abilities God has given. Saul wanted David to fight with armor and weapons like other soldiers, but David knew those were not suitable for him. Instead, he used the sling he had practiced with as a shepherd. This teaches people not to compare themselves to others, but to use their own talents wisely. The victory over Goliath became a turning point in David's life. After this event, many people in Israel respected him greatly. Women sang songs celebrating David's victory, saying that Saul had killed thousands, but David had killed tens of thousands. Although this later caused jealousy in Saul, it showed how greatly the people honored David's bravery. David's life after the battle was not always easy. He later faced many difficulties, betrayals, and personal failures. Yet throughout his life, David continued to seek God sincerely. Because of his heart for God, he became known as one of the greatest kings in Israel's history. The story of David and Goliath remains meaningful for children and adults around the world. It has inspired sermons, books, songs, movies, and works of art for centuries. Many people use the phrase David versus Goliath to describe situations where a smaller or weaker person defeats a much stronger opponent. This story continues to encourage believers to remain faithful during hard times. It reminds them that no challenge is too great for God. Even when situations appear hopeless, faith and courage can lead to victory. The main message of the story can be summarized in David's own words: "The battle is the Lord's." 1 Samuel 17:47. That statement captures the heart of the entire story. David understood that success did not depend only on human ability. True victory comes from trusting and obeying God. The story of David and Goliath is much more than a battle between a shepherd boy and a giant warrior. It is a powerful lesson about faith, courage, obedience, and trust in God. David's victory teaches that no obstacle is too large when God is involved. Through humility and faith, even the weakest person can overcome great difficulties. Today, many people still read this story for encouragement whenever they face challenges in life. Like David, they learn to trust God, stand courageously against fear, and believe that with God. Share now. Thank you.